My son's voice trembled on the phone. Not loud, not dramatic, careful, as if he was afraid the truth itself might overhear him. "Eleanor," he said quietly, "maybe it's better if you don't come." Then came silence, the heavy kind, the kind that presses against your head and refuses to let go. I was standing in my study, my fingers resting on a smooth mahogany desk, staring at a framed aerial photograph of Belmont Manor. The estate glowed in soft afternoon light, acres of land, old stone walls, decades of history. Beneath the frame was a copy of the deed, my signature discreet but unmistakable. I owned that place. Yet my son was speaking to me like a nervous child who had damaged something valuable. "They said the guests will be very elite, investors, politicians, people who might feel uncomfortable with you." Uncomfortable? I closed my eyes and took a slow, steady breath. Outside, the city carried on as usual. Inside me, something sharp and familiar woke up. "Who said this?" I asked. There was a pause. Too long. "Her parents," he finally admitted. "They think your background doesn't fit the atmosphere." Atmosphere? I imagined spotless white tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, champagne glasses raised by hands that had never known real work, polite smiles, perfect manners, quiet cruelty. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. In that moment, something became perfectly clear. They had mistaken my silence for weakness. I raised my son alone. No powerful family name, no social circles filled with noise and status, just discipline, planning, and sacrifice. Every business decision I made was deliberate and quiet. Every asset placed behind companies and trusts meant to last longer than pride. His future was built piece by piece. Now he was marrying into money that announced itself loudly before ever entering a room. "They don't mean any harm," he said quickly, trying to soften the moment. "They just want everything to be perfect." Perfect didn't include me. I pictured his fiancée's mother. Tight smiles, sharp eyes scanning rooms like price lists. Her father, firm handshakes, loud laughter, always trying to dominate a space. They welcomed my son's success, not his origins. The betrayal didn't hurt most because of them. It hurt because of him. He didn't challenge them. He passed along their message instead. "I understand." I always said that. After the call ended, I sat down and let old memories return. The first time they asked about my husband, the shift in their tone when I said he was gone, the glances at my clothes, my accent. I had noticed everything. I had said nothing. And now they wanted me erased from my own son's life for the sake of a photograph and a perfect evening. They assumed I was poor. That was the real insult. Not money. Ignorance. I didn't react. Reaction is what people like them expect. Instead, I acted quietly. I asked my lawyer to request the full guest list for Belmont Manor through the estate management company, Hawthorne Property Holdings, the one I legally controlled but never publicly claimed. I reviewed contracts, vendors, seating charts. My name was nowhere. Of course it wasn't. I watched my son move through wedding preparations like someone drifting, guilt written clearly on his face whenever he looked at me. I smiled. I served tea. I stayed calm. Inside, I wasn't planning confrontation. I was planning timing. I remembered buying Belmont Manor 20 years ago through an overseas holding company, Silvercrest Holdings. I remember the seller's disbelief when a widow with modest manners closed the deal without hesitation. True power never announces itself. I requested one small adjustment to the wedding schedule, a brief address by the host before the ceremony. No names, no explanations. It was approved immediately. People who believe they are superior rarely read the fine print. The wedding day arrived flawless. White roses, soft music, wealth displayed for other wealth to admire. I arrived early, not as a guest, but as the owner. I dressed simply, elegantly, calm. The estate manager froze when he saw me. Then he lowered his head slightly and nodded with respect. The bride's parents noticed me last. Their smiles faltered. Confusion spread across their faces. When the ceremony paused for the host's address, the estate manager stepped aside and handed me the microphone. I didn't smile. "I would like to welcome you," I said evenly, my voice carrying across the manicured lawn of Belmont Manor. Murmurs spread across the crowd. "I purchased this estate 20 years ago. Every stone you admire today exists under my care." Silence fell instantly. I turned towards the bride's parents, Lucinda and Edward Harrington. "I was told I was too poor to attend this wedding." Their faces collapsed. My son, Daniel Whitfield, stared at me, realization spreading across his expression, understanding arriving far too late. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply let the truth stand on its own. "I was told I didn't belong here," I said calmly, "so I won't stay." Gasps, whispers, cameras lowered. "But understand this," I added, meeting their eyes. "You don't get to decide who belongs, especially on land you do not own." I returned the microphone and walked away. I passed them. I passed my son, whose eyes were filled with regret. I didn't stop. Power doesn't wait for applause. I left before the vows. Some wounds don't bleed. They teach. Inside the car, I felt no victory, no sadness, only clarity. That day, they didn't see me as poor. They didn't see me as invisible. They saw me as someone they could never control. And my son learned a lesson far more expensive than any wedding. Silence, when chosen, is strength. I drove away from Belmont Manor knowing one thing for certain. They lost more than dignity. That day, they lost the illusion of power. And I never looked back.